Welcome to Voice for Infection Prevention, where we explore the latest developments, challenges, and insights in the field of infection prevention and control. With a passion for promoting patient safety and healthcare excellence, we're excited to bring you engaging discussions with experts, leaders, and innovators in the field. So whether you're a seasoned professional or just beginning your journey in infection prevention, welcome to the conversation. This is Voice for Infection Prevention.
Welcome back to Voice for Infection Prevention. Today I'm joined by Michele Pedrani, an infection prevention leader whose career offers such an honest and practical look at growth, resilience, and what it really takes to build a long-term career in the field. Michele began her career in nursing and spent many years in clinical and education roles before eventually finding her way into infection prevention. What makes her story especially compelling is not just the transition itself, but everything that followed. Growing into the role over time, stepping into leadership during an incredibly difficult season, rebuilding teams through major challenges, and continuing to advocate for both patient safety and the value of the infection prevention profession. In this conversation, Michele shares what surprised her most when she entered the field, why infection prevention is so much more complex than many people realize, and what kinds of backgrounds and personality traits can make someone successful in the role. We also talk about leadership, staffing, mentorship, hiring, and the importance of keeping the door open for professionals from outside of nursing who have the skills to thrive in infection prevention. If you're interested in career growth, leadership under pressure, and real-world challenges and purpose behind this work, this conversation is one you won't want to miss. Let's dive in.
All right. Well, I want to start this afternoon, kind of where we do most of these interviews now. I'm curious as to how you discovered infection prevention. Is it something that you kind of fell into that seems to be a common thing, or did you study for it? I guess what was your path? How did you end up in this industry?
So that's a great question, and I would love to say that it was my passion and I followed that, but that is not the case. So I was a nursing educator, so I was a nurse first, and I was in the process of losing my position. And I was very friendly with the director of infection prevention at that time, and she had mentioned to me that there was a position opening up and that I would be good for that position. And I was currently in need of a full-time position with benefits, and I jumped and never looked back. So awesome. That's how I landed the position.
Okay. And then how long were you a nurse before that transition happened?
Okay, so that's a really good question. So I've been a nurse 32 years, so a good 20.
Good 20 years. Okay. So it was late into your career then when you found even infection. It was an open position. You needed it. How much knowledge did you have of the role before you kind of interviewed for it?
So I thought I had a lot of knowledge until I actually started shadowing the infection prevention nurse. And then I really got to see what I did not know, which was quite a lot. So although I had a good clinical handle on the patient and the surrounding, I didn't actually know infection prevention the way an infection prevention knows it.
Nice. And then what was your first role? Like, describe how big was the department? How big was the hospital? What was the position that you walked into?
So way back when I graduated nursing school, I was one of those where they paid for I got a full ride if I agreed to work for that hospital for 2 years. So it was guaranteed employment and a free ride. Who would say no to that? That was 2 years in Trenton, actually. It was a city hospital.
Okay.
And after that period of time was over, I always wanted to work in a larger academic medical center. So I made the switch about 2 years into that career and did mostly critical care. I started med-surg, did some critical care, did home care, and did nursing education before I worked in infection prevention. So I've done a lot of different nursing roles in between.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you took on the infection prevention role, were you a sole IP? Did you have a team that you were working with? What was that reporting structure like?
Yeah, it was a small team and a very well educated in infection prevention team. So we had microbiologists. I was the only nurse in the department. So I was the groundbreaker, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something you hear often. I normally hear the story from non-nurses being in, but you were the first nurse in the department.
I was the first nurse, and there was a lot of microbiology that I did not know. So they educated me very quickly on that. But it was a good team, a strong team, experienced team. So I was very fortunate to learn from the best.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then tell me your biggest surprise. I mean, was there any moment where you were working for a couple months and then you were assigned a task or had a problem pop up? Was there any like kind of eye-opening moment that was like, oh wow, this is my role now?
Yeah, definitely. So things that you don't expect. So in this position, you can walk in and think you have a schedule, and it goes out the window in 5 minutes. And I can recall with great clarity an incident where we had what looked like an outbreak scenario. And this was pre-COVID. It was another organism, but just frightened, not kind of sure of what to do, knowing the impact on both patients and staff, and really it was an eye-opener to me, because in everything that you read, if you read a lot of research and clinical articles on infection prevention and outbreaks, you get an understanding, but that's exactly how it plays out when you see it unfold. And that's kind of my first eye-opening experience is watching something unfold, but being able to identify it and having people around that supported me, that were able to kind of work through the regulatory part of it with the notification process with the Department of Health. And I'm appreciative for that. I learned quite a bit, and being in this environment in a larger hub, you get to see some of the sickest patients in the state actually come to our facility. So you do see a lot, but that moment was a showstopper for me, because the impact is great. So if I didn't act on it quickly, it could have been much worse. But definitely I learned from that experience, and happy to have had that experience to learn and have the people around me to help guide me.
That's excellent. And tell me, how long were you in that role before you felt like you knew what you were doing? Like you really felt like you had a good handle on your job and kind of felt confident when people were coming to you with questions?
So I want to say at least 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. And knowing the clinical piece was one thing, but just the full comfort level is another, and that was the time I took my CIC, because I felt like I was ready to be certified. But I was very much a student, and I still am. I'm still learning, but I feel like it took a good 5 years for me to really feel comfortable and confident, and having the support of not only the people I work with, but also the team. So the individual units, the infectious disease doctors. So 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you took the test, did you do pretty well, or did you take it more than once, or what was that?
No, I took it and passed. I'm a decent test taker, so that was a good thing. But I did overstudy.
Good deal. And then how much different is this role than your experience being a staff nurse? Like as far as, time commitment, as far as continually learning new things, I guess and I guess what I'm getting at is there's a lot of hospitals that still require nurses for the role, and they just have this thought, oh, we can just take somebody off the floor and put them into this role. Is that transition easy? Is it a totally different role? I guess, what's your take on it?
Yeah, totally different role. And I love what you just said, because we had a nursing strike here, unfortunately, and the mindset was such that anybody could do the role. And I had lost, it was just myself and another infection preventionist left behind, who was not a nurse, who was able to support the department. And I think from a hospital point of view, there's a lack of understanding of exactly what we do, and we're not that interchangeable. So they did send me some bodies who helped and could be. It's not the same thing as someone who's an infection preventionist who knows the job, knows the work. Clinically, it's one thing. You can have a strong handle on the human body and understand disease process, but there's such the level of detail that infection prevention does on a daily basis, and the understanding that we have goes beyond that. And I think I still think there's people that don't recognize that in hospitals and think that anybody can do it. It's a job that's Monday through Friday. There's no weekends or holidays. It's easy, from a nursing. I get that a lot. And, it's truly might not be as physically demanding, but it certainly is, demanding in every other way. There's a lot of review. There's a lot of reading. There's a lot of interaction with people who don't like sometimes what you have to say, right?
Yeah.
We are the cops of the organization, and when we when we pull you over, it's not always something that people want to hear, right? Whether it's, hey, you might have forgotten to wash your hands, or you have a hospital-acquired infection, that's a hard conversation to have, and it can be quite dicey. And that's where the knowledge and the experience comes in, and the ability to explain that to someone who may not know, who clinically is very strong, but may not know that the nuances of infection prevention, that we have specific definitions that we follow from a government standpoint. We do the surveillance definitions and not the clinical definitions. So I think there's a learning curve, but it's definitely something where I think many people think it's an easy job that anybody can do. And the reality is it's not. And it may not be as physically demanding, but it's demanding in other ways.
Yeah. No, that's a phenomenal answer. Thank you for saying that. And it kind of leads me to the next question is what type of person, or who makes for a good infection preventionist? I mean, you kind of nailed the differences between the two, and it's a unique kind of position and challenge, but I don't know, is there a certain personality type, or like what are traits that you see in successful IP?
So I can say that I've had a lot of experience in reviewing resumes. I've had to rebuild my team twice since COVID. So I can honestly say I've changed what I look for. Where experience is definitely a plus, and I would love people with a history of some type of infection prevention background. I would rather have a good person, easy to get along with. We work sometimes in very stressful conditions. Our hospital is big. We have a lot of ground to cover, but we need to get along. So that personality piece is big for me. Sometimes it's hard to tell over the phone or even in an interview, but I find anybody can learn a job. But if you're hard to work with, or you're not used to working with other people, that's challenging. But what I've started doing, and I think I'm biased because I have my children are both in the military, but I do look for maybe a military background. I also look for, do they play sports in college? Because that level of discipline, I really respect that. I think that's why when I look for IPs in my department, I don't look for nurses specifically. It's open to nurses, but we look for anybody with, some type of Bachelor of Science degree in hospital experience. It could be a microbiology degree. We have a lot of microbiologists in the department, masters in public health and nursing. It's a nice, I believe in balance. But at the end of the day, I would take someone with no experience who's got a great personality and easy to work with, rather than someone with years of infection prevention experience and no personality.
Yeah.
No,
it makes sense. And I'm going to take us down kind of a side path just because it's interesting, and you referenced it here. But from your LinkedIn, it looks like it was probably your daughter, I don't know, but it looks like you coached a travel soccer team for a minute.
Yes.
Kind of on the side. And so I'm curious, how or does an infection prevention schedule allow you to do something like that? And then, so I'm just curious, how do you pull it all off? I mean, what blows my mind is that you guys have such a challenging job, and it never stops, and you're always having to learn new things, but pretty consistently, there are always kind of extracurricular stuff going on, whether it's continued education or it's fun hobbies or whatever it is. How are you able to juggle all these things? And I don't know how intense your travel soccer league is, but I mean, I've seen it, and it can get pretty time consuming itself.
Yes, it can. So that was a while ago. I don't do that anymore, but that was pre-director. So when I was a staff IP, I had the time to be able to do that and enjoyed it very much. And just as you know, with kids, sometimes it's just the people that are doers. You find that people, once you volunteer to do something, people keep asking you, and although I have I played lacrosse, so I coach lacrosse also, but I'm, that it seemed very natural for me to coach a team, but the travel team is more of a commitment, but quite fun. I highly encourage fun activities after work, and that was one of them.
No, that's great. That's great. Now back to the career track. So you were a staff IP for many years. I'm curious, were you at the same hospital, same position, or were you kind of navigating between things? What was your career as a staff IP? What did that look like?
Got you. So I have been at the same institution for 30 years. This is my 30th year. And I've done different roles within that career. Med surg, went to critical care, did nursing education, and then infection prevention. So I also did home care. I forgot about that. So during the baby years, when I was having babies, I did home care. So I did home visits.
Wow.
Weekends, every weekend. I was off Monday through Friday for childcare, and then weekends I worked. So the beauty of being a nurse is that you do have that flexibility to do different things.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you were, to be clear, you were a infection preventionist at the same facility for 11 years before you bumped up to a director. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. My boss actually retired, and it seemed a natural transition for me to do the work. And she was a very good mentor to me, and I still keep in touch with her, and we're close that way. So I'm very thankful for her showing me the ropes. Otherwise, if I had been thrown into it, I don't know if I would have accepted the challenge. But I felt I was ready.
Now, their structure there, was it all the IPs reporting to a director, and then that was kind of a natural promotion, or was there a manager there that you were able to jump over?
So we all reported to a director. It was only until recently, within the past year, that I was able to get a manager position posted and filled, which is quite helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, that was helpful because I do system work as well. So myself and another IP do system IP work. We currently do not have a system IP. That is not built into the structure yet, but it will be. Until that happens, I'm doing not only local work, but also system work. So I needed that manager position.
Okay. Now tell me this, like, obviously this paid off for you. I mean, you were a staff level IP for 11 years, and then you were able to get a big jump up to the director. Were you able to continue learning or challenging yourself over the course of those 11 years? Or was it after the 5-6 year point, was like, okay, another day, just doing the same job? I guess, how are you able to stay engaged and invested?
So that's
just because, especially this day and age, you don't see many people last in a position that long, much less in the same hospital for as long as you have. So I'm just curious, what was unique about you or unique about your situation?
So infection prevention's fun, right? There's a lot of neat things going on. There's lots of new and interesting, whether it's germs, bugs, whether it's different types of technology out there. But for me, there's always something to learn. I'm very big into doing like webinars. I do go to like APIC when I'm able to learn. But I think it's so important to self-educate. I don't know, that's just the way I'm wired. I'm not bored at my job. I always find something to do or improve upon.
That's great. So you got this jump into the director role. When you took over, can you kind of lay out what that looked like? Like, how many people were you managing? Like, how big of a scope were you over?
It was just right during COVID. So we still
perfect time.
Yeah, we still were not 100% sure about what was going on. But I learned it. What do they say? Sometimes it's like drinking out of a fire hydrant. Have you heard that expression?
Yeah.
So it's a lot Fast and Furious. It was Fast and Furious. I learned very quickly on my feet. But like I said, I did have good mentorship. But when you're actually in the role and things happen, there's a weight when so many people look to you for decisions at a very large place, even if it's a small place. But you're sought after as the subject matter expert. You're expected to know the right thing to do and to follow the regulations and know the regulations. So it weighs heavily on you at first. and it still does, but I'm used to it, so it's not as stressful. But I think at that time, I had 3 IPs under me. So we've grown. We've gotten additional 2 IPs plus a manager. So during that time, I was able to build a case for more staff. And as I did, our physical footprint of the hospital changed, and we're actually bigger. So I'm glad we did what we did.
Okay, so today, and it's been, let's see, you've been in this role for about 4 or 5 years now. So what does your team look like now compared to what it did 5 years ago?
So it's definitely more diverse. So, we have a Masters of Public Health, we have microbiologists and nursing. So we have different backgrounds coming in, which is great. More of them, which is great. And, still on the side, we also have a whole special pathogens program, which is unique to the state. So we have 2 biocontainment units and are charged with a functioning special pathogens team. We're recruiting for that as well and building that up. So we have a specific coordinator for that role who reports to me as well. So we've grown, and it's very. I'm happy with it, but I would still like to see with the new development of the buildings where we'll be as far as staffing goes, because I think it is a challenge, and I think just justifying what you have to leadership and why you need what you have and why you potentially need more, I think is all of us struggle with that.
No, it's something we hear all the time, so it makes sense. Okay, so tell me, when you made this transition, how different is it, or was it, day to day, going from a staff level infection preventionist to now more of kind of just a higher level director position? Day to day, how much different is it?
It's much different because my days are consumed with meetings that I was not responsible for as a staff nurse as much, right? A few here and there, but I was able to get in and get out. That's why I was a coach of a travel team. I was able to have more flexibility with my schedule. Now it's filled many times with meetings, and that's definitely a good portion of my day. So it's more time consuming.
Is that a change that you've grown to love, or is that something to where you're kind of like, oh, I really miss kind of the days where I'm on the floor?
Yeah. I definitely try to get out on the floor as much as possible, and people do miss you when you're not out there. But I think that's not just in healthcare, but in general. I think probably we schedule too many meetings, right? I find that some of them can just be 15 minutes, and it could be a phone call, or it could be in person, or an email. So.
Yeah, no, I'd say that's the trend in all of business, not just healthcare. And, so tell me, you've obviously now you've got a large team you're over, and you've built out a program, and you're continuing to grow that. So no, I'm curious if you when you go to interview new candidates, is there anything that any specific questions or anything that you really look for? As far as knowing if they're going to be a good fit?
Yep. So sometimes I just want to know where, describe for me what they did in their prior institution. How big was it? Because it does make a difference coming from a small place to a large place. It's just people find it overwhelming to have 5 or 6 ICUs. Different, transplant, different types of services. It can be overwhelming for people, and I kind of want to know what their background is or was, and just kind of getting a feel for what they're looking for, right? What do they think this is? Because I think sometimes people don't realize it's not a sitting job, that some of your time is spent behind the desk, but we would like you out there on the floor interacting with staff, looking to see what's going on. How are they washing their hands? Are they washing the equipment? What's the flavor on the floor, right? So I think knowing they need to understand kind of what they're in for. I don't like surprises. I certainly don't. I would like people to be as informed as possible when they're coming.
And tell me, let's see, obviously you've been a director now, like I said, for about 5 years. Mm-hmm. Has there been any significant challenge you faced I mean, is there anything that really just sticks out as far as like, not that you weren't prepared for it, but just has anything hit that has really caused you to just pull your boots up and figure it out? I mean, what's the biggest challenge you've faced
So
here
yeah,
lately?
I think that the strike was the biggest challenge for me, and losing my staff. It just was over. It was sad because they didn't want to leave us, and that was 5 months of almost half a year of not having a full complement of staff to do the job, and I think I
Wow.
was questioning, you know, you know, my purpose and kind of trying to what would happen when they came back and kind of transitioning that piece. And many of them couldn't, to be honest with you, could not stay without working, and they did not return. So I was left with rebuilding a team, so going through the strike and then rebuilding a team again. So that
Yeah.
was a bit challenging, and I think that really was a hard point in my life. But it's either you step up to the challenge or you don't, right? And I think
Yeah.
I could have easily said, you know what, this isn't, I'm not cut out for this. But I knew, we have a good place, we're good people here, and we will rebuild.
Yeah. And what, just to dig in a little bit on this, what happens in that scenario? I mean, 5 months is a long time.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of CMS penalties and different things that you're looking at. I mean, I can imagine infection rates increase.
Oh yeah.
If they didn't, like how, even if they did, how on earth do you handle that? Like that,
Yeah.
it's one thing to kind of toughen up and work hard, but like that's a lot.
It was,
How did you get through it? And what were the, obviously you lost your team, but were there any other kind of repercussions from that?
so other than, as you mentioned, infection rates went up, hand hygiene went down, right? No shocker there, right? There wasn't
Yeah.
enough of us to be out on the floor. We would have to tag team. So one of us would go to the floor, the other would take care of calls, make sure we're reporting our mandatory reporting. So we have, work must go on, but the quality of work was definitely probably not what we'd want it to be, right? Without a full complement of staff. We did
Yeah.
what we needed to do from a regulatory perspective to get by, but clearly not a good place to be. And lot of lessons learned as far as, we did have conversations with kind of seeking out some help to get experienced IPs, and that wasn't met. I think there was other concerns at the time, and that wasn't high on the priority list. But
Yeah.
that could have helped us a great deal, is to have just experienced IPs just to do some of the surveillance, even remotely or something. So if I had to,
Mhm.
God forbid I do it again, I would have something in place where we would have a contract or something in place where we could have some remote surveillance. Uh, Definitely do it differently this time.
Okay. How long ago was this? The nursing strike?
So it'll be 2 years. 2 years in
Okay.
August.
Okay. Have you been able to leverage that situation for a full staff or to get more staff by being able to point to, look, we saw what it looked like with lower staff. We can't go back there, and the way that we improve these rates is just having more people. Have you been able to use that case?
So no, I haven't, because it's just the strikes are costly. So getting extra positions or what you need, it's almost the wrong time to ask afterwards, because now we're a bit in a hole because we've paid for.
Got to recover from it. Yeah.
So it kind of got us in not a good way. But I think different reporting structure here now, different people looking and listening. So I think things may change.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Okay. And some of the other things, I mean, you've had, obviously that was the biggest challenge you probably faced, but it sounds like you referenced it here. I mean, you've got other challenges that are kind of ongoing. You've got a lot of construction projects going on.
Yeah.
I know that construction in general is a thing that a lot of IPs don't really consider when they get into the role, and then they're kind of hit with, oh, that's my job too. So talk to me through that. I mean, how have you handled all these new kind of projects thrown on your plate?
So nice to be pulled in early to many of them. So
Yeah.
And these are not small. So we're talking like inpatient facilities with operating rooms and CSP, all highly regulated. It definitely, it's a good thing in a sense to be brought in the beginning when construction's going on, so that you can maybe learn about how the flow of traffic is going and how the room should be set up. But we're now beyond that point. So now whatever's there is there, and we're working with what we have, and just going with with the surveyor's eyes to kind of look around to see what's missing, what needs to be added. It's just different. It's interesting what an architect's design is and what they feel is important versus what can be done or needs to be done from infection prevention. Just the design elements, and trying to meet in the middle where they don't want things in the hallway on the wall because it's ugly, but you need PPE accessible, so you need to put it somewhere. So meeting in the middle with some of this stuff, even with the plantings and you have to be careful with fresh plants, and you can't have them everywhere. So there was definitely compromise with the builders, and so you have to know your regs. You have to come prepared, and you're definitely not probably going to be the favorite person in the room when you have to tell someone who's spending a lot of money that they can't have like a water feature, and then they end up having a different like light fix, it's very pretty actually, but it's not a water feature. So we did win that one, but so it's definitely, you learn a lot, and again, that's highly regulated too. So
now, were these standalone buildings?
So under the same license, it's physically connected by a bridge, but it's standing alone, but it's under the hospital license.
Okay. But it doesn't sound like you had to deal with any of like air quality issues during construction or anything.
In the beginning we did. So in the beginning we were, making sure they were wetting it down when they were digging, and all the vibrations and checking the water. There were concerns in the very beginning. Now it's just a matter of the devil's in the details of the fine, like the negative and positive pressure rooms, the clean rooms for CSP, the bio, the different rooms, and making sure that air pressure and all that is in place. Again, devil's in the details. There's limits to how much alcohol sanitizer you can have per smoke compartment. So you get to learn a lot during the process.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then you also, and again, this was referenced briefly, but I want to dive into it a little more. I mean, you're in a pretty significant healthcare system. You're kind of a hub for people coming in. I'm sure you see all kinds of things, and then you're, I'm sure, prepping for things that we even haven't seen yet. But how are you staying on top of everything? I mean, how do you, what have you done to, I guess, get your team ready for things that you may not expect?
That's a great question. So we definitely, all of us are pretty involved in the New Jersey DOH, and they send us like hot topics every week, what they're seeing out in the community, whether it's measles cases in North Jersey or, things to be aware of. So I think all of us are very much keyed in on that. We're involved, with our local APIC chapter, with the IDSA. We're connected in many ways. We're also an academic center, so we do touch base with the medical school and the physicians there to see what's going on. We have grand rounds that we try to attend and learn about what's going on, new things happening. So we're constantly kind of trying to stay on top because we have to. As you said, we are a hub of everybody coming to us, and we have some organisms. It's funny, if you look at bacteria and organisms within like a 10-mile radius, there's a hospital in a smaller hospital in about less than 10 miles away that doesn't see the organisms we do here. It's just
Wow.
We have Candida auris, we have carbapenem resistant bacteria. The number of infectious agents here is much different. Our microbiome is much different here than it is just a few miles down the road. So we have to stay on top of it. And with our Epic is a good thing. So we converted to Epic in 2022, so right after COVID, And that actually lets us know when there are organisms of concern that result, so that we can put the proper infection isolation in place for those patients. So
between all the things you've talked about, and then also a transition to a new medical record system,
yeah,
you have a lot on your plate the last few years.
yeah, I forgot about Epic. Epic was that was a hard one. That was a hard one because it was right after COVID, and just trying to, make that work for us. So it's still a challenge. We're still working with it, but we're in a much better place.
And then as you're talking, like I see on your resume, you've done some consultant work.
Yeah.
With Rutgers Health, which I think it's affiliated in some way with where you're at.
Yeah.
But what is that? I mean, is it just something you wanted to help out on the side? You had extra time, or like what does that look like?
So that was fun. That I did pre-director, and just kind of helping guide people. It's amazing what things get done. That the answer is because we've always done it that way, but that might not be the right way to do it. So just different, even smaller practices, being able to let them know, hey, there's guidelines out there we need to follow. It's highly regulated. I think people don't know what they don't know, and they've been doing it forever, so they think it's okay. But that part of the consulting was just helping them be more compliant with the regs, and that was it was fun.
And then looking at your education, I mean, you have your bachelor's of science in nursing.
Yeah.
You've had that for a while now.
Yeah.
It looks like you went back and got your master's degree.
Yes.
About the same time as you got your certification.
Yeah.
Or at least when you finished, about the time you got your CIC.
Yeah.
Did you go back to get your master's to help with your infection prevention career, or was it just something that you wanted to do, just to challenge yourself?
Yep, I did. And it's something I always did want to do. And I kind of am a little competitive with my sister, who's also a nurse, but she's got her doctorate, so I will never get my doctorate. So she's won that war there. But she was my actual reason why I became a nurse. She's older than me. She's actually a neonatal intensive care nurse and a teacher. So she is a professor of nursing. So I learned a lot from just watching her. But no, I did it for personal growth, and also got my certification in school nursing because I thought, hey, you just never know. And I've never actually used it, but I have it in case I ever want to.
You have it. Nice.
Yeah.
And tell me this, and I'm just curious personally, but do you think your master's degree in particular, but do you think that's really made a difference in your career? Like, did that knowledge really benefit your actual job, or was it, I guess, would you recommend somebody go get their master's if they're currently working as a infection prevention?
I think it's great. I know there's I think there's degrees out there now specific to infection prevention. I think that's great. It's not for everybody. I just think I wanted to have it because I'm competitive, and I just wanted it. Did it make a difference in my career? I don't know. Hard to say. I mean, I don't think it was I don't think it would have been a deal breaker for a director position. But I think I just wanted to get my master's degree, and I felt good doing it. So,
okay, couple more generic questions that I have for you. But obviously, you worked as a nurse for a long time before jumping into infection prevention. What would your message be to nurses that may have may have an interest in infection prevention, or I guess how would you sell a foreign nurse to come take a look at the infection prevention department?
Well, that's a great question. I think that nurses all have the basic skills of what's required to just they have. Let's see how I can frame this. So they have the working knowledge of anatomy, physiology, of terminology. They know the patient inside and out. So they already have a head start. So they know how to do central line care. We track central line associated bloodstream infections. They put in Foley catheters, so we track the catheter associated urinary tract infections. They have the knowledge there that can help build upon the infection prevention career. So they're already doing a lot of it. It's just another facet, and it's something they can build onto their clinical knowledge. So I think to anybody who's remotely interested in even in infectious disease. Some people are. Some nurses are very much interested. They want to like find out more. Some of them, I will tell you some interesting things. Backgrounds in the OR. They're very methodical with PPE. They're very good teachers for infection prevention, and people with backgrounds in OR know what it is to be in a sterile environment, know how to properly don and doff. Those people definitely might be interested in infection prevention, having a nursing background in OR, but even a floor nurse as well. They're doing all of the physical steps that can lead to possible an infection, and so they have a better understanding of the human condition.
My last one is more in general. You've managed to be at the same place for a long time. You've had a long career in infection prevention. What would you say to somebody that's worked in infection prevention for a couple of years, but they're kind of, whether they're getting burned out or they're starting to question if it's for them or whatever challenges may hit them? I guess what encouragement would you have to stay in and just keep doing it?
I guess it's hard. You can't force yourself, right? I wake up every day excited to go to work, and I think the day that I wake up and I'm like, I really can't stand what I'm doing, I think that would be the day. But I really, because you just never know with infection prevention. You just never know what you're going to walk into. You can think your day is going to be great, and as soon as you walk in, it hits the fan, and then you have problems, and that happens. Or at 2:00 on a Friday afternoon when you just want to cut out, and you get a call with a problem that you can't cut out. So you never know what you're going to find. But to anybody who's questioning their decision, I think everybody's natural to question, right? We have bad days, but if you wake up and you truly don't have that desire, I feel like I do make a difference. I know that sounds corny, but being in infection prevention, you are helping make rules and helping people to follow the rules that keep people safer at the end of the day. So I'm a big patient safety advocate. My little background, so I don't want to say this is the reason I got into infection prevention, but this is why I love it and why I will continue to focus on patient safety. About 21 years ago, May 9th, 21 years ago, my father passed away in a hospital in New Jersey. He wasn't here, but long story short, he died of sepsis, which they didn't really know too much about at the time. But the chain of events, the cascade of events that I witnessed as a daughter, but also as a nurse. I wasn't in infection prevention then, I was a nurse, but I saw like a lot of lapses in infection prevention, a lot. And it added up at the end of the day to his demise, I feel. I don't think people intend to do what they do, but things happen, right? We have lapses in infection prevention. As a result, people can die. So I'm motivated very strongly by patient safety. I've always been a strong advocate of patient safety, and I think that's why I do what I do, because I think about, we got to prevent things from happening to people, and we know what's best practice. We need to enforce it, and that's what motivates me. That's why I get up every morning. I'm excited to kind of help in that frame of mind.
Great, and I'm sorry to hear that, but it's a great personal story as far as a motivating thing. It's great, and anytime that you can connect it to making a difference in an individual patient, I mean, that's a big deal and important to remember, because you guys' job obviously is extremely important, and that's the big purpose of what we're doing with this podcast, even, is just to make sure that people realize the importance of their job and make sure other people realize the importance of this role in general, because it is so important. But we're coming up on time, but I just want to say, is there anything else you'd like to add, or maybe that we didn't cover that is just important for younger IPs to hear?
Yeah, I think that we should, as infection preventionists, really encourage non-nurses to apply. I look at some of the job postings and I see nurses only. We should really kind of balance it and keep it open to more than just nursing. I love nursing as a nurse, but I think we balance it well. But I think we should look outside the box and give other professions a chance who have that inkling and want to try infection prevention. I think we should open the door to them. And unfortunately, I don't see that. I don't know if that's your job, so I know you see it a lot, but I see a lot of nursing, want the nursing degree, and I don't think it's necessary for this job.
No, it's far too common. Yeah. I mean, it's trending the right direction, but it's still far too common. far too common this day and age. So I appreciate you saying that, because it is a big deal, especially with the shortage that we're facing with infection prevention professionals in general. One quick follow-up to that, just because you've made the transition as a nurse, and I'm sure you've hired on non-nurses and you've seen that transition. Is one a harder learning curve than the other? Because I think both backgrounds, there's a whole area that you're going to have to learn on the job or pick up. But do you think either one is going to be more or less challenging?
They're both challenging. I think from nursing, you're looking at things from a different lens, and it's hard to stop doing that. You know, you kind of want to, you have to kind of change the way you look at infection prevention and patients. It's not your job to do the nursing part of it, you know, and I think people in the very beginning feel very much they have their nursing hat on, and you need to step away from that a little bit and focus on the infection prevention part of it. So I think there's a learning curve there. Same with someone who might be coming from the lab. They might not be comfortable going into a patient room and looking at a central line dressing, or, you know, going up to people and asking questions. I mean, that's, you know, that's a bit of a learning curve for them as well. So I think it's equal on both sides. You know, both have their strengths.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Voice for Infection Prevention. We hope you found our discussions informative and insightful. Remember to subscribe to our podcast for more conversations with experts in the field, and don't forget to leave us a review to let us know what you think. For additional resources and to stay updated on the latest news in infection prevention, visit our website at voiceforip.com. Thank you again for listening. Until next time, stay safe and continue your commitment to excellence in infection prevention.